folks, old man Grognard here for another one of these shows. It's been an interesting week. Just came back from rehearsal tonight, and Saturday I have my 5e Oriental Adventures game that I play in. It's kind of fun. Right now it's turned into a dungeon crawl, but that's going to happen with any game. You know, it goes in and out of dungeons and things, and you know, but it's pretty interesting. We've done a lot of damage. But, I also wanted to shout out to my buddy Robin Irwin, one of the nicest gamers in Kentucky. And he was my roomie at the last North Texas RPG Con in 2016. I hope to see him again in 2017. Maybe we can do it again, maybe not. But either way, I think we should play in each other's games, because for some reason we didn't get in each other's games. I don't know why, but I'll see if we can rectify that. Anyway, before we go on, I've got something to talk about, but first I want to do an email. I got one. Just one, so not bad. It's from Mojo. And this is from February 16th of this year. He says, I hope my emails are not bugging you too much. Never. But I wanted to talk about level progression and shoot an idea past you to get your thoughts. I know that magic users of any type of magic, be it arcane, divine, or nature, will be more powerful than a fighter, thief, etc. once they reach a certain point. That's always been the problem, getting to that certain point. I also know that class balance has turned into a thing, and there are folks on both sides of the fence on the topic. Me, I wouldn't make a hobby out of it, but he goes on, I have split level progression into two categories, one magic and two non-magic. Okay. For the first few levels of advancement, they're the same. Then comes the split. It happens at level 6 in my games. Non-magic has a base of 12k to advance, while magic has a base of 18k to advance. So non-magic advances a little faster. I did it this way because of how I have the magic progression set up. Instead of advancing according to level, i.e. first level, second level spells, etc., I have done a tier system where tier 1 is levels 1 to 3, tier 2, 4 to 6, and so forth and so on. Do you think my idea is sound or a load of hooey? I would love to hear your input on level progression of the classes in RPGs. Thank you for doing your show. I love it. Proud Grognard hemorrhoid Mojo. Hemorrhoid Mojo, they have medicine for that. Anyway, I think the idea has merit. I don't know if gimping the magic user is the best way to go. I've seen it done before. I've seen it done badly. I've seen it done well. Okay, first of all, go back to, say, the Rule Cyclopedia, and look what they did with elves. I know because I used to play a couple. Basically, they gave them, like, their fighter magic users, and they are very effective. But the level progression is very slow. And if you take a look at that, I think that's the direction you want to go. The tiered spell system, the merit, I think. Some spells would be available at lower levels, and if you keep a lid on it, it'll probably work out. So that's my answer, Mojo. Thanks for watching, and I hope you watch this one too. Now let's get on to the meat of what I wanted to talk about here. Somebody asked on the last episode what I use or how I set up my GM books. Now, I do have GM reference books that I never use at the table. They're for, like, you know, working out ideas, things like that. At the table, I use my GM book, and what I use are these. These here are, as you can see, composition books, but they are graph composition books. I love graph composition books because they're so versatile. But I think I got this one, these at Office Depot, and the red one I believe I got it at Staples. But they cost a little. I mean, I know composition books are pretty cheap. These are a little more pricey. I think I pay like $2.50, $2.50, $3 per. I always, every time I go to like, you know, the office supply stores, I always grab an extra one just to have. These are all blanks, just to have it, because I tend to use a different GM book for every game or campaign, depending on if it's a genre where I'm doing a one shot or I just got one thing and it's all encompassing. Like I have a Gangbusters GM book, but I also have a Castles and Crusades book in Bluffside. Now, both of those can probably handle anything, you know, that the story throws at me. I can see you breaking it down to specific campaigns, and that's that's not a bad idea, really. But for now, this will get me by. Here's my book for 50 Fathoms. I used to want to put covers on all these, but then I said, the hell with it. My own, you know, I do my own covers and such, and it's too light, you can't see it. So I just keep it plain. I just write on the front, you know, what it is. And this is my Castles and Crusades one. And appropriately, this is my Mutant Future book, GM book, green, radiation green. And what I did some screenshots of these, or rather scans of these. See, I have a frog in my throat tonight. And I wanted to take a look at how I could. It's not really willy-nilly, but what I try to do is write the adventure in there and sort of like, you know, this is what I want to do. This is my prep. Okay, right here, this is a page out of one of my Savage Worlds book. Now, I also cut and paste in these books. For instance, those are average mooks that I use in the game. They're stats. You know, if I need an NPC who's an average mook, I can grab it. And that's out of a blog article about doing mooks and NPCs and things like that I thought were very handy, because you don't need much in Savage Worlds. Now, as for like more of the meat of it, here's a page out of the same book, 50 Fathoms. This was an adventure I ran with a ship in a port inside of a mountain, and so you see I drew the ship there and the port and all that kind of stuff. And then on the bottom I could write stuff like a usual compo book, but it's got squares, and this is why. Stuff like this. This is, I believe, out of my. Is that out of my? Yeah, this is out of my Castles and Crusades book. See all the columns and everything? Those are hit point markers. You know, I write down how many there and just their hit points. They're all the same hit points. I just start checking them off once they go. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And on the side here, on the left side, I put more information about, you know, armor class, all that kind of stuff, weapons, things like that. Down here near the bottom, you got a couple more mooks for another encounter, and so on and so forth. So, and here is a, a partial part of a dungeon. This is why, like I said, this is why I use graph compo books, because I can write this stuff and then I can draw the dungeon. I can draw what there's. I can actually take a dungeon. In other pages, I broke it down to, you know, I would rewrite the rooms, as you notice, as, you know, room 1, 2, 3, 4, but I would try to keep it bullet pointed. Just what I need to know. It's extra work, but it's really worth it. And finally, as far as pasting stuff here, this is out of my Mutant Future book. That's the area they were in at the time of the game. That's in the Louisiana area, because that's where they were going to go. So, bada bing, bada boom, and there's their stuff. And that's pretty much how I do it, because I will put whatever is in there that will make my job easier, my GMing job easier. Which means when you prep it, you write up whatever you need to write up, paste. It doesn't matter what you're pasting it in. Just paste it in if you need it. I mean, I've got my Castles and Crusades book in the back has got encounter tables. I've got out of I think the 1E AD&D, the AD&D 1E DMG, or was it Rule Cyclopedia? I can't remember what, but they're in the back just in case I need them. You know, if it's going to be like a one genre thing, put the stuff you need in there also, along with writing up the stuff. And it just makes, that's how I run games. That is how I run games, with those. Now, something I didn't show you that I've talked before about on my other shows. I make little booklets. I go to Incompetech, Doug MacLeod's Incompetech, and make myself some graph paper. You know, because he's got free right there. You can make your own, whatever kind you want. You want hex, you want graph, whatever. And what I do is I make the horizontal lines thicker than the vertical lines, so I can write it like that, but I still got the grid. But what I do is I take it and duplicate it, and I've got some PDF software that I can use to manipulate PDFs, and I make these 12-page booklets that I make that are really handy. I keep a couple on me, you know, when I'm doing stuff in my GM bag. I keep them on me because they're real handy. I can write an adventure in one, and if that's not enough, I'll just grab another one, because 12 pages you can write a lot. My Tunnels and Trolls stuff, that's how I wrote it all up, just because, you know, I don't always want to take, if I know what I'm doing and I got all my ducks in a row, I don't want to have to take this whole thing sometimes. Sometimes, especially if you're in a convention, hey, Glenn, grab a game. I'll just grab that and go, well, okay, here's my die. Here, I got the dice, I got the map, let's go. And do that. That's how I set my compo books up. And I want to thank Matt Evans for pointing me in the direction of compo books, because he does it himself. He uses regular compo books. I'm the one who came up with the graph solution. And believe me, it's these things are worth their weight in gold, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, so that's my little secret. Not much of a secret, but there it is. And I guess that's it for this time. So I'll say bye-bye.